LA, LA, big city of dreams, but everything in LA ain't always what it seems.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to yet another video. We got the second mock draft on the way. Uh, I don't want to do one every week, obviously, I'm gonna try and spread it out, have one every couple weeks probably. But since the last video, the order has changed so much. Let's get right into it because, if you just look at it right here, the Bears had it last time. Now it's the Cardinals. The Giants, the Patriots are continue to soar up there. The Rams and the Packers both started fairly well. Now they're both in the top seven. Same for the Bucks. Broncos are no longer in the top three or four. So the order is so different, and it really is going to affect what I have going on here. So let's get right into it. Last time the Bears were at number one, I had them taking Caleb. The Cardinals at one now. They're not drafting a quarterback. I don't think they hold on to this pick. It would, they already showed us new GM last season. He traded their top pick, moved back, acquired a bunch of assets. I think they're going to do the same thing this year, except they're going to get a lot more in return. The question is, who trades up for number one? This could be, let's just list off the teams that could theoretically do it. The Bears, if they needed Caleb, they'd trade up. Giants could trade up. Patriots could trade up. Rams could trade up. Packers could trade up. Bucks could trade up. Falcons could trade up. You know, Raiders, fucking Saints if they want, Vikings if they wanted. I mean, it's so many teams that could trade up right here. Take your pick. For this video in particular, I'm going to have the Falcons trading up. The specifics of the trade don't really matter. Let's just say it's 2 firsts, a second, and for the sake of things, let's throw Kyle Pitts in there since he's not being used well in Atlanta. Let's force the trade, start the draft, and we have the Falcons with the first pick getting their franchise quarterback. The Desmond Ridder experiment was unsuccessful. I think the coaching has been bad. Not utilizing your first round picks, whether it's Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan, there's a very bad coaching job going on right now with the Falcons offense. So I think it's been very tough to evaluate Desmond Ridder, but he's been benched. Taylor Heineke is obviously not the future. So the Falcons have squandered what they've had at quarterback this season. So I think they are in a prime position to trade up with the Cardinals or whoever has the first pick for that matter. And if they do so, obviously, Caleb is going to be the guy. Not saying he is, a surefire bet as the number one pick. Drake May certainly, I think, is going to make a very strong case. There will be a lot of debates if Drake May is actually the best quarterback prospect in this draft. But for right now, I do think Caleb is the consensus guy at number one. Bears at number two. I think they keep this pick. I think they draft Marvin Harrison Jr. DJ Moore has been very good. He's actually on pace for like a damn near career year, I think. But he's not enough. Darnell Mooney, what the hell happened to him? He's fallen off a cliff. They had Chase Claypool at a point in time. Good God, he's gone now. They need another receiver, and thankfully Marvin Harrison Jr. is sitting right there, generational prospect. I don't think the hype is too much. I think he could have been 1,000-yard receiver in the NFL right now if he was playing. I think, if he didn't have to go to college, I think he would have been top 10 pick last season and be 1,000-yard receiver right now. So he's that good. The hype is warranted. This pick, however, I think the Bears trade this pick. The question is whether or not you trust Justin Fields. It's very difficult because he's hurt right now, and we're having to watch Tyson Bagent play, right now, have 4 turnovers in the game and stuff like that. But, you know, could they move on from Fields? Absolutely. But I've seen 2 games from Fields, that being against the Commanders and the Broncos, and again, a very small sample size. But I think the play calling has been awful. The talent around him, the offensive line at times has been awful. The head coach, awful. Defense, awful at times. So you know, it's a crapshoot right now. I don't know if they want to keep him or not. Last draft, I had them drafting a quarterback. This one, I'm going to have them move their pick and not draft a quarterback. Again, same thing. Who trades up? A whole list of teams are in the running. Right here, we're going to have it be the Raiders. Fired their coach, some new life into the team, possibly. Let's just say 2 first-round picks and maybe Davante Adams. Now, that wouldn't make sense because they drafted. Never mind. 2 first-round picks, a second-round pick. Raiders move up to number 3. They draft Drake May. Aiden O'Connell, It's interesting. I think, depending on how he plays, certainly the final stretch of this season, he could certainly play his way into being a franchise quarterback for the Raiders. But at this point in time, we haven't seen close to enough. So I think it's very realistic that the Raiders make a move to try and get a franchise quarterback in the draft. Giants at number 4, very tough. Obviously, if Caleb or Drake May fell to you, this would be a great spot for that. But I think the number 4 pick, it's just not whoever is at number 4. I don't see them drafting a quarterback, 4 or 5 really. And unfortunately, it's the Giants and Patriots. They both need quarterbacks, but the Giants, we're just gonna say they move forward with Daniel Jones. Maybe they pick somebody up because he just tore his ACL, I believe. So is he even gonna be ready for the start of next season? Who knows? Maybe he will. What would it be like 9, 10 months? That's possible, but I do doubt it. But let's just say they try to improve the worst offensive line in the NFL and take Olu Fashanu. Evan Neal, it's tough. He was a good prospect coming out of college, one of the more safer picks, people said, but he's just been a disaster so far in the NFL. I don't know if the Giants are going to move on from him or put him at guard, which could be, a career-saving move for him, but they need a lot better than what they have right now at tackle, and Olu Fashanu certainly would be a massive upgrade there. Patriots at number 5. Do you take a quarterback? I think it's way too big of a reach. It's a massive decision on the part of Bill Belichick. Is he even the one making the moves? The draft decisions after this season? Who knows? I'm certainly he'd have a voice in that. Will he still be with the team? Who knows? It's so many things we don't know yet. Are any of these guys worth top 5 picks? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. A guy I do know is worth a top 5 pick. The guy in his entire uh, eligible players right now that could change this offense the most, I'd say is Brock Bowers. Mike Gesicki, uh, who's the other guy that had Hunter Henry? These guys do not move the needle. They've been incredibly unsuccessful. The Patriots have not utilized tight ends since Gronk left. Brock Bowers would certainly change that. I think Bill respects what he's done at Georgia, the talent he has. That could be a franchise changing pick right there, taking Brock Bowers in the top 5. Rams at 6. Quarterback certainly could be in play. I think the Rams are a quarterback friendly system, so maybe you would feel more comfortable at throwing a young player in there. Also, LA, I like the environment there. Uh, is Stafford coming back? I don't know. I think it would be a lot better to just get a guy on defense that you can move forward with after Aaron Donald. Because if I asked you right now, how many franchise players do they have on defense? I don't think I could name one. That's just a surefire bet. This guy's going to be on the team 5 years from now. So you gotta get somebody in the building like that. I think Liatu Latu is a guy right there. Last draft, I had him going at number 3, I believe. The issues with Latu Latu, think Jalen Phillips from a couple years ago, where he had just extreme medical concerns. Liatu Latu had to medically retire from football for a short period of time, I believe, from Washington, where he started out. He's a little older of a player, I believe. I don't know how old he is. I'd assume at least 23, 24. So a little older of a prospect, but I think he's just a dominant player who can play right away and be good in the NFL. So some teams certainly would probably have him off their board entirely because of the health concerns. But if we're just looking straight off talent, I think he's more than capable of being a top 10 or even a top 5 pick. So that's good value for the Rams at number 6. Packers at 7. This is a no-brainer if you ask me. This is Joe Alt. Quarterback, certainly Jordan Love has not been what you want to see from him. Running back as a need, that's just not in play in the first round, really, if you ask me. Um, Tackle though, David Bakhtiari. I can't even remember the last time I saw this guy play a stretch of games healthy. Seems like he's hurt every year. Certainly, you got to start looking for his replacement. Joe Alt just makes perfect sense. If I had to make a bet of an offensive or defensive lineman who I think is going to be in the NFL 10 years from now, it probably would be Joe Alt. I just think he's that consistent, that solid of a prospect. Buccaneers at 8. I do think this is a quarterback spot. Tampa, I think a QB friendly environment. Um, you have you have some talented receivers. I don't know if they're going to be there moving forward. Guys like Cade Otton, Trey Palmer, though, Rashad White, a young offense forming. Baker, he has keep in mind, Baker's not played bad. I think if Baker can really just keep up this play that he's been showing, I think Baker could be the Buccaneers franchise quarterback in the future. Because a lot of teams are going to have to make quarterback decisions this offseason. And I think Baker's actually going to be a pretty sought after guy. So the Buccaneers very well could keep Baker. This is under the assumption that they keep losing games. They finish with like a 5-12 record, and they decide to move on from Baker. If they do that, I think Michael Penix is the guy stepping in right away. Uh, I just think he could start day one, and I think he could move the ball like the Buccaneers need somebody to move the ball. Not saying Baker's not doing that, but I think Penix could come in right away and also be putting up similar numbers, as well as just, it's a lot easier to trust the guy you drafted with the top 10 pick than the guy you brought in on a 1-year contract through free agency. So that would stabilize the Bucks a lot, I believe, at number 8. Broncos at 9. Quarterback obviously not in play here. Russ has played very well this season. Wide receiver, though, I don't. I mean, can you name a receiver that's a lock to be on this team next season? They got rid of KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick, back-to-back torn ACLs, I think. Cortland Sutton, they're going to move on from. Jerry Jeudy, I think they're going to move on from. They just need a wide receiver in general. So if we're looking here, who's the best option as a wide receiver one? I think it's Malik Neighbors. He's putting together a monster season. He can work from the slot, from the outside. He has size, has speed, great hands. I just, he's the most solid prospect to me. The most likely wide receiver one outside of Marvin Harrison. So I think he's going to be a lock as a top 10 pick. I think the Broncos are the most wide receiver needy team in the top 10. So that's a match made in heaven, really. Titans at 10 has to be a receiver. D Hop's off the team next season, I believe. Treylon Burks. I'm not going to call him a bust yet. He's dealt with a good amount of injuries, but he has not looked great so far. So they need something in terms of young wide receiver talent. Who do they take? I think it's Keon Coleman. He has been rising up draft boards because he is a monster. 6'4", 215 pounds, size, speed, being a red zone threat, going up and snatching balls out of the air, contested, open, it doesn't matter. He can return kicks. This is a well-rounded prospect, not the best route runner in the world, but as far as just a building block, size, speed, hands, it's a great combination. So I think at number 10, it's great value. The Titans, again, probably need wide receiver just as much as any other team in the league right now. Cardinals, with their first pick being at number 11, all of a sudden, because of the Falcons trade, who do they take? Well, I think wide receiver certainly could be in play here, but instead I'm going to give them a defensive guy. A guy that can be the building block for a pass rush, which is in need of a lot of help. I think, there's a big four here. Laiatu Latu already went off the board. Chop Robinson, Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, I think are all capable of going in the top 15, but do 4 pass rushers fit in the top 15 in this class? I'm not really sure. Take your pick, honestly. I think here I'm gonna go Jared Verse because usually when I do mock drafts, Jared Verse just slides and slides and slides. I don't think it's realistic. I think this guy is extremely talented. Former tight end converted to edge rusher. I think he is going to go very highly in this draft. So the Cardinals at 11, I think it's a good fit. Commanders at 12. You just moved on from not only Chase Young, but also Montez Sweat. So you are incredibly lacking at pass rusher right now. Both of those guys, I think, were hits as well. I mean, I think you drafted well in terms of getting both of those guys. You just moved on from both of them. You don't want to, kind of reset the franchise a little bit. So who fills those shoes? I think Dallas Turner has the most upside of those guys on the board right there, Speed and power. Last season I thought was a disappointing season for Dallas Turner playing alongside Will Anderson. Now as the number 1 at Alabama, he's dominating and he's making a big impact in every game he plays. I think certainly he is a lock for the top 20 in the draft. And Washington, after moving both of their franchise pass rushers, are in desperate need of a guy like Dallas Turner. Colts at 13. This is a wide receiver. This is a wide receiver spot, in my opinion, and they have a litany of guys. Alec Pierce and Josh Downs, I think, are very good options as some young players, but I don't think either of them are number ones. Michael Pittman, I don't know what it is. I just don't see him in the long-term plans of the Colts. I don't see him as a true number one. I think they need a true number one. I think the best option, if you want a guy like that right now, is Rome Odunze. similar to Keon Coleman as far as size, speed, throwing it up to him and he's going to come down with it. You know, he's a very good prospect who I think is even a little underrated right now. I don't see him going top 15, top 20 in a lot of drafts, but I think as the season wears on and we see him play against the Utahs, possibly against the Oregon again, the Pac-12 championship against the Oregon States, he is going to continue to make play after play after play at Washington. I think that's only going to continue to help his draft stock. Bears at 14. Gave him Marv with the first pick. I think it's going to be offense and then defense. I don't think they're going to double up on either side of the ball. Going defense here, I think it starts with the pass rush for the Bears. It's been awful. I mean, all the moves they made in free agency did not help this pass rush whatsoever. So they need a guy. They need a young guy who can really get in there and change life for them as far as getting after the quarterback. I think that's Chop Robinson. I mentioned there's 4 pass rushers here that could all go in the top 15, and in this mock draft, they all did fit in the top 15. Cardinals, second pick. Um, I said wide receiver here would be an option. I just don't really love any of the guys right now. With their first pick, I gave them Jared Verse. With this pick, I think you just want to go best player available if you're the Cardinals. You need help in so many spots. Why not take the best cornerback off the board? The first cornerback off the board being Kool-Aid McKinstry. Corner is a position in this draft where it's very good. I think there's a big 5, even a big 6, really, of guys that could go in the first round. But the problem is, where where do you find the spots for them in the top 10 or 12? There's so many good quarterbacks, so many receivers, so many great players on both lines of scrimmage. I think the secondary in this draft is going to be a little undervalued, even though it's a very talented class, both corner and safety. But I think there's bigger positions of need, at least in the top 12 right now. So Kool-Aid at 15, that's great value. If you're the Cardinals, get your franchise #1 corner with the 15th pick, you got to be happy with that. Jets at 16, it just has to be tackle. I mean, what else could it even be? They have a strong case, alongside the Giants as the worst O-line in football. And you desperately need guys to fill in those roles. So J.C. Latham, you know, as far as an outside guy, earlier I had back-to-back Florida State guys, now I got back-to-back Alabama guys. As an outside tackle, I think J.C. Latham has a lot of upside at Bama right now. He's playing right tackle right now. I'm not sure if that's what he'd play with the Jets, but they need help, man. They need help desperately at offensive line. Chargers at 17. They've won a couple games in a row now. I think earlier they were all the way in like the top 10 or 9. 17, though, I think this is a corner spot. Wide receiver, it doesn't really make too much sense to me. You got Mike Williams coming back next season. Quentin Johnson, you just drafted. Tight end, there's not a good spot for this. Running back, certainly not in the first round. D-line, you could make a case, but we just had the top 4 go off the board. Linebacker, not really. This is a little high for linebacker, in my opinion. I don't think we're going to see a linebacker in the top 20 or 25. Cornerback, though, like I mentioned, very talented class. I'm going to have Cooper DeJean go off the board here. I think he will be a top 20 pick. I think he'll be a second DB drafted. He's so versatile. You can put him outside, you can put him in the nickel, you can put him at free safety. You know, he just offers you so much. He is a weapon on the defense, and there's not many guys you can say that about. I think he'll play a big impact on special teams as well, even though they already got Darius Davis back there. But Cooper DeJean, I think it's just good value at 17 for the Chargers. You really need a #1 corner. I mean, Asante Samuel, he's solid. Michael Davis, I don't know if he's in the long-term plans. The J.C. Jackson experiment failed miserably. So Cooper DeJean for the Chargers, I think you can just draft him and say, we have figured out the secondary for now. Bills at 18. Similar situation, different circumstances though. I don't love the possibility of drafting, especially a wide receiver here. I mean, the Bills' offense, I don't think it's because of lack of talent or personnel even. I just think it's a lack of poor decision making and poor play calling right now for the Bills. I don't think offense is really the concern. Defensively, they've been good, but with Tre'Davious White's injury history, Kaiir Elam, I don't know, if you can say he's been a good pick or a bad pick yet. I think cornerback certainly is where I'd go here. A true outside corner that can hopefully take over for Tre'Davious White because of all his injuries. I think it's Nate Wiggins. It's a lot of options here. Nate Wiggins, I like his size. I like his aggressiveness. Uh, I'll continue to learn about the corners here and how I really feel about ranking all of these guys on a scale. But I think Nate Wiggins certainly has the talent to go top 20. I think the Bills is a good fit there. Saints at 19. I'm glad tackle is finally a need here. I mean, I've been begging for tackle to be up here for the Saints for the longest. It was other positions, but I think tackle is where I'm going to go here for the Saints. I mean, Trevor Penning, is that his name? He is, yeah, I'm not going to call him a bust, but yeah, he's not worked out. Not been worth the first round pick they spent on him. Who is it? I think it's Amarius Mims out of Georgia. I'm not going to throw out the who's the guy that Steelers drafted last season? Tackle from Georgia. I'm not going to throw out that comparison because they're big athletic freaks, but I think Amarius Mims certainly is going to be a first round pick. He is a pretty safe bet at tackle in the NFL for me. I just think he has the frame, he has the athleticism, he has the size, the power. For the Saints, it's a no brainer. I think tackle has to be your number one priority here. Vikings at 20, it's quarterback. Uh, I think Kirk Cousins certainly was in play to just return before he got hurt, but do you want to invest a big contract in an aging quarterback who just coming off a massive injury? Not saying Kirk isn't a great player. He's a great player. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, top 8 maybe in the NFL. But it just doesn't make sense for the Vikings to pay him 30 plus million when you can draft a guy, pay him very, very little money, and try and build a Super Bowl caliber team around him. I just think that's the no-brainer option for the Vikings if you're moving forward. The question is, who is it? I think there's three guys in play right now. Two for me, really, but Bo Nix, McCarthy, and maybe Quinn Ewers. I don't even know if Quinn Ewers is going to declare. I don't know if he should. I don't think he should declare. So for me, this is between Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy. The Vikings are looking to win. Okay, they're not looking to, trudge along for a couple years and develop a guy because they got a guy in Justin Jefferson. They're about to pay $30 million at wide receiver. Okay, you don't want to pay a guy that type of money and have to wait a few years while your quarterback develops. That's why I think Bo Nix is going to be the option for the Vikings because I think he can step in right away. I think Bo Nix might be the most NFL ready quarterback in the entire draft. The system he plays in Oregon right now, getting your best player the ball, exploiting matchups, his decision making, Bo Nix is athletic. Bo Nix is the most underrated QB prospect in the draft right now to me. Everybody just kind of plays him off because of his age and just how easy they win at Oregon. But I mean, man, Bo Nix has been playing out of his mind this season, and I think he has a lot of traits that could transfer to the NFL. And I think he's going to go a lot higher than people think. And even if he doesn't, I just like his future as an NFL prospect. Cowboys at 21. Running back, I don't see that. Interior offensive line certainly could make a case for even outerior offensive line. Defense, cornerback certainly in play. I'm going to go receiver though. I think, Michael Gallup is not what he used to be. Brandon Cook's not in the long-term plans. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, I couldn't tell you a single receiver who will be on this team next season. So I still certainly think that wide receiver should be the Cowboys' number one priority. I think Jerry Jones playing a big role in the draft room will make the two Texas receivers the 1 and 2 options the Cowboys here. The question is which one? Do you want AD Mitchell for the size, speed as an outside deep threat, or do you want Xavier Worthy in the slot as the better route runner, more safe, secure option for Dak? Good question. You couldn't go wrong with either one if you ask me. I'm going to give them Xavier Worthy as the more fundamentally sound route runner, gets more separation. I think he is a safer pick for the Cowboys at 21. Steelers at 22. This is secondary for me. Offensive line certainly needs some help. The whole offense needs. I mean, this could be quarterback for all we know if Pickett continues to struggle. But I think corner, Kalen King, keeping him in state. A bad game against Marv does not define a cornerback. He's been so good out, besides that, Kalen King certainly is still a a first round corner, if you ask me. Texans at 23. Every time I do a mock draft, Emeka Egbuka is available at 23. The Texans need receiver. It's just a no-brainer. Certainly CJ Stroud would be an influence in their drafting decision making, right? And if Emeka Egbuka is an option, How the hell could you pass on? Now, it will be said that they already have Tank Dell as a slot receiver, and Emeka Egbuka is a slot receiver in the NFL. I don't know if I entirely agree with that. I think he has the size and the route running to certainly play outside. And if Nico Collins is your new number one, maybe Egbuka is not getting the number one matchup all the time. So I think Egbuka, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, throw in John Mechie, throw in Xavier Hutchinson. You have an extremely young and talented wide receiver core for CJ Stroud moving forward, and extremely cheap, by the way. If that's their receiver core, and you're paying your quarterback very little money because he was a draft pick, the Texans could put together a super team worth of defensive and offensive line talent. Okay. I'm just saying that's a very good outlook for the Texans moving forward. So Egbuka at 23 is a very, very good option. Bengals at 24. This is Jazar Newton. He is so talented to fall this far because the Bengals keep winning. It's just tell me which team up here is going to take interior defensive line over what else they need. Just tell it doesn't make sense for any of these teams up here to take Jazar Newton, even though they could. He's talented enough to go top 12, really, top 10 even. But the Bengals at 24 is the first team I really say, okay, Jazar Newton would help them more than any other player that is on the board right now. So I think the Bengals, that just makes the most sense for me. Seahawks at 25. Is quarterback in play? Yes. Asked me that 2 months ago, 1 month ago, I probably don't say that. Is JJ McCarthy in play here? Certainly, especially since he could sit for a year behind Geno. Am I comfortable doing that right now? No. I think 25 is actually pretty good value for JJ McCarthy. Obviously, I've said before, he's my QB4 in this draft. He is a tier below, the Penix and the Bo Nix, and 2 tiers below the Caleb and the Drake May. Not saying he's a bad prospect. So he's my QB5 actually. I forgot about yeah, so it's Penix, or sorry, it's May and Caleb Williams, Penix and Nix, and then JJ McCarthy. But, I do think he's going to be a first round pick, but I can't find a spot for him in this mock draft. I think there's going to be 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, but is the Seahawks here? Not when, Talisi Fauga is available, right? It's just such good value. The Seahawks need offensive line help right now, way more than they need a new quarterback. Put JJ McCarthy back there. I do not think we're a better team whatsoever. Get Fauga in there on the offensive line rotation. That helps us tremendously right away, at the snap of the finger. So that just makes so much more sense for me for the Seahawks in the first round. Niners at 26. This is cornerback. Offensive line certainly you could make a case for, and I would listen. But I think cornerback, a guy like Josh Newton, physical guy, physical, he is a guy that I feel really comfortable putting Josh Newton on the outside in the NFL against number 1 receivers, maybe more so than any other pick right now at corner. So I like Josh Newton a lot as a prospect, and I would hate it for the Niners to get him at 26, being a Seahawks fan. Dolphins at 27. I don't know what I gave him. I think I gave him offensive line last time. We're going to go with Jatavian Sanders. I don't know if another tight end is going to go in the first round, but if it is, I think it makes the most sense for it to be Sanders, the Dolphins, late in the first round. It's just, the fact that they don't really use the tight end position at all, and the fact that they could, by getting a guy like Sanders in there, an athletic deep threat, stretch the field, do all types of things with him, tight end screens, that's scary to think the Dolphins offense has a whole nother layer that they could unlock with, using a tight end in there. Jaguars at 18. This is going to be the first safety for me, which is kind of crazy because Cam Kitchens and Tyler Nubin they're both guys who should and could go in the top 20 to 25. But like I said, the secondary position in this draft, I think, is going to be a little devalued. Cam Kitchens, though, keeping him in state in Florida. I think the Jaguars moving forward, the secondary should be addressed. They got a lot of guys moving in and out. I think, close here in the future, I think Cam Kitchens would be a staple in that secondary for a long, long time. Lions are going to go secondary as well. We're going to go where's he at? We're going to go Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. Lions moving on from Okudah was such a stupid decision on their part. One of the only bad moves they made all offseason because now they don't have another option at cornerback outside of Cam Sutton. Lassiter in there gets you a cheap boundary corner. I think, moving forward, you need somebody in there outside of Sutton that you can develop and point at and say, okay, we're coming along with multiple guys here. Ravens at 30. Usually I give them secondary here, except now when I think about their situation, you got Odell, probably won't be on this team next year. Aguilar probably won't be on this team next year. Rashad Bateman is a failed experiment. He is, he's as good as gone, if you ask me. So the only guy I see on this team long term is Zay Flowers. So you need another guy in there, and Zay Flowers, kind of a smaller, route runner, also a deep threat, but not really a guy you'd look to stretch the field. A.D. Mitchell with the Ravens certainly would fill that role and then some, and hopefully he has some better hands on him than a couple of the guys they got right now. So A.D. Mitchell at 30, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Ravens. Chiefs, this has to be receiver. Leonard Taylor is sitting right there, and it would be very hard to pass up on him. But if you're the Chiefs, wide receiver has been such an issue this year that I don't know how you could pass on a receiver right now, considering all the options right here. There's a lot of good guys. I think Troy Franklin to the Chiefs would scare me a lot. Same thing with Trey Harris. There's a lot of guys in this draft class that would scare me if they went to the Chiefs. But we're going to go back up here to the top. I think the most terrifying would be Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. He hasn't been healthy really since the start of the season. He's dealt with some injuries this year, but I think he's 6'7", 6'7", one of, if not the best deep threat in the whole class. The thought of Patrick Mahomes throwing jump balls to 6'7" Johnny Wilson downfield with like a 5'10", 5'11" corner on him is not fair. I don't want to even imagine that. So that is something that I think the Chiefs should definitely explore. And if they do, the rest of the league is in trouble. Eagles here, last pick. I don't think receivers really in play. Secondary, I think they've got a lot of guys in there that they're trying to develop. I don't think that's really in play. I think it's linebacker here. Last time I gave them Jeremiah Trotter Jr., son of Eagles legend Jeremiah Trotter. I'm going to give him a different guy here because Edgerrin Cooper has been shooting up draft boards lately because he has been playing amazing right now at Texas A&M, getting downhill, stuffing the run, making plays as a pass rusher and also in pass coverage. There's some very talented linebackers here as far as these top three, as well as Eichenberg out of Ohio State, Stutzman. There's a lot of good linebackers in this class. I just think they're not really going to be valued that highly. But Edgerrin Cooper should be a first-round pick without a shadow of a doubt here. Oh, man, that was a lot. That was a lot right there. That is my second mock draft, and I guarantee you, when I do my third in 2 more weeks, it's going to look so different from this, man. But that's going to be it, man. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment what you think. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out. But niggas don't know how to act.